There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to B2B Growth. I am your host for today's episode, Nikki Ivy with Sweetfish Media. Guys, I've got with me today Lindsay Cournoyer, who is Vice President of Marketing at Axonify. Lindsay, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Nikki. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I've been looking forward to our chat.
Me too. It's going to be so much fun. First of all, I love girl talk. I love to be able to have these talks. And I love the topic that you selected to bring to us, which is this level of excitement that you have around the resurgence of brand marketing in B2B and how within that, you guys are taking a more empathetic approach than a lot of folks may be in your approach to marketing these days. So I'm excited to dig into that. But before we do, Lindsay, yes, I would love it if you would just give us a little bit of background on yourself and what you and the folks at Axonify have been up to these days.
Yeah, so my name is Lindsay, and I've been the VP of Marketing here at Axonify for just about a year now. But I've actually been with the company for almost 5 years, which in startup, scale-up world is an eternity. I joined as the Director of Brand and Marketing Communications, and I did that role for about 3.5 years. Then moved in to lead the marketing programs team and build that out. And then shortly after that, I was asked to move into the VP role. So I've been doing that for about 11 months. So I would say, I'm still a new VP. I'm learning the ropes. So it's fun and exciting and crazy all at the same time. But I really love my job, and I have a great team here at Axonify. And what we do is, our platform is a modern learning platform, and we play in the corporate learning space. And we're built specifically for frontline employees. So if you think about retail associates, call center agents, people who work in plants on the floor, or drivers, field workers, they don't typically have access to corporate email, and they rely on doing their training by reading binders and manuals and, their team huddles and stand-ups. And what we know is that just doesn't translate into knowledge and behavior change. So what Axonify does is deliver that quick hit of learning every day. It's a short burst that's woven into the flow of work, and it really reinforces the things they need to know to do their job. So it's based in brain science, so you remember what you've learned, and it's fun, and it's engaging, and it's quick, and people just love it. And we're seeing, really great results with our customers, and we're impacting their businesses by really building that workforce who knows and does the right things.
I love it so much. Brain science and fun in the same sentence.
Yeah, You don't hear that very often, but...
Well, and speaking of that, we talked offline about what the sort of traditional background or career trajectory is of folks who end up in VP of marketing roles. And by the way, congrats on your upcoming anniversary in this role.
Thank you.
And we talked about how it usually does come from some sort of maybe demand gen and more analytical types of roles than what your journey has been. So tell us a little bit about what that was like for you.
Yeah, so before I came to Axonify, I was lucky enough to work in another great tech startup, software startup in Kitchener-Waterloo here in Ontario, Canada. And I did everything. So I did brand, I did product marketing, social, and I really got exposure to the entire gamut of things that, make up the whole B2B marketing thing. But when I came here to Axonify, like I said, I was hired to look after brand and marketing communications. So, my path to VP really hasn't been that. Like you said, they pick usually people who are deep into analytics and spreadsheets and numbers, and B2B marketing has really become that. And I just have a totally different view on things. And I'm really a brand marketer at heart. And I think in today's world of B2B marketing, brand is so critically important and really the only way you can stand out. So, I'm not the traditional candidate, but I think, I bring a fresh new perspective to the team.
She's got my vote, guys. I approve this message. But I like the way that you framed that. And I think you're absolutely right with the I guess the tendency toward the analytics and all the technology that supports that, and what a big space that is. It's no wonder that B2B marketing has gone this sort of direction that's become all about what's automated and all about what then becomes sort of formulaic. And we're all sort of running the same play because we've all got our faces buried in these reports and spreadsheets. And listen, not for nothing, those matter because we're all, still trying to achieve this ultimate goal of revenue growth. That just doesn't mean that it can't be creative. That doesn't mean that it can't still be fun and that there can't still be innovation within that. So talk a little bit about what you bring to what you guys do from that perspective.
Well, I think, technology and automation analytics are so helpful in so many ways. But the problem is that software has literally exploded and taken over the world. I mean, there's a platform for everything under the sun, and there's about 100 or 1,000 versions of. So, when I think of my life as a VP, I'm literally bombarded by BDRs all day long. So, they're emailing me, they're calling me. I have not picked up my phone in 3 years. Like literally, I don't even know why I have one because I know it's always a BDR on the other end of it. Like it's too much. And I think as marketers and salespeople, we've done ourselves a disservice thinking that people want to hear from us. Like we haven't earned someone's time or the right to ask for their time if they've never shown any interest in our solution. And, product features and functionality are not how you stand out. In a world of infinite supply and so many platforms out there, you have to work at your brand and making that emotional connection with people. Because at the end of the day, people pick partners that they like, that they want to do business with, that they have a connection with. So you can send automated emails all day long, but if you don't connect with people and genuinely want to help them, I think you're in big trouble.
Today's growth story revolves around search engine marketing. Delphix, a big data platform, had hired an agency to manage their Google ads a few years ago, but they weren't seeing the results they wanted to see. Being such a technical B2B solution, they set out to find a team that could take on their challenge. After countless proposals, they found the perfect fit, Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. In just 1 week after launching Directive's campaigns, Delphix saw their lead volume double and their cost per lead drop by 60%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah, so it's like you and I were talking offline about this dating analogy, which I love. I love dating analogies with respect to marketing and sales. And the one, right, assuming everybody wants to hear from you and then talking about what you have is like you're this guy that's walking up and you're like, hey, I got this nice car outside. I make a 6-figure salary. And you're assuming
come for a ride.
Like, no, I don't. Whereas
if
it's me, right, and I'm at a bar and I'm wearing like a t-shirt with like Dexter on it, right? The guy that walks up to me is like makes a joke about that show, right? Oh, exactly. I love that show. Did you hate the series finale? Because I hated it. And now we're in a conversation that doesn't have anything to do with what I'm certain he'll try and sell me on at a later time. Exactly. But it does have to do with making that connection. So there's the hack. And there's what you're talking about when you say that the approach needs to be empathetic versus being sort of formulaic and automatic. Talk a little bit more about some examples of where you've done that and gotten it right or seen that done right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, in B2B marketing for many years, it's been all about the MQL. And, people come to your website and they do things and they consume your content. And you think that because they've done certain things, they're ready to talk to you.
Oh, yeah. She's into me.
Yeah. She's into me. She wants what I'm selling. But the truth is, a lot of the time, people are just learning. They're not ready to go on that date. They just want to be left alone to do their thing. And I think, so many companies and marketers try to force people into that conversation. And, I have this vision of a world where don't talk to someone unless they put up their hand and said, yes, I am picking up what you're putting down. I'm interested in your point of view. And I want to have a chat with you. I want to hear more about what you do and how you might be able to help.
Yeah. So like Bumble, but for B2B marketing. I'm sorry, guys. Listen, I know.
There's a business idea in there, I think.
There is a business idea in there. You only get to talk to hand raisers. But it is like if we take that and apply it, the reason why we're having so much fun talking about it this way is because the essence of what we're discussing here is it does come down to humans understanding what other humans want versus assuming what other humans want, and sort of taking I've spent a lot of time as a salesperson in these startup streets. I've spent a lot of time, just sending out profile pics, trying to see who was trying to be down.
Yeah.
But it was so much work. And then the way it makes you feel about yourself afterwards is you're setting yourself, as a salesperson in particular, you're setting yourself up for so much undue rejection. And then I think that all of that ends up driving people who might otherwise be great salespeople or great professionals out of the industry altogether, because, they were doing it this way that they were trained to do it, which was all built around automation and built around these formulas, and getting told no, and then internalizing, well, maybe there's something wrong with me, and maybe I'm just not a very good salesperson. When in fact, it just was that their approach wasn't, they weren't taught an approach that was empathetic enough. So I champion what you're talking about. I love this approach. I talk about a lot on this show about sales and marketing and really all of B2B revenue growth being at this inflection point where we're all figuring out our identity, and we're in recovery from bro culture. We're in recovery from hustle porn. Thank God.
Yes,
and we're getting to where it's okay to say out loud, right, that there are some people who won't buy what I have, or who don't want to buy what I have right now. And the answer is not going to be just keep calling them.
Exactly.
Just keep sending them more emails.
Exactly, because you're turning people off is what you're doing, and you're actually hurting your brand. And you know what? One of my favorite thought leaders on empathetic marketing, Brian Carroll, always says is that marketing should feel like helping, because it is. So your intention needs to be to help people. And, if they're not ready to be helped, you can't help them. So just be there, check in. If you see people expressing interest in you, reach out, but do it not under the guise of trying to sell them something, but to try to help them be better.
Yeah. And I think, things like what you and I are doing right now, which is having this conversation that is really thinking about what do the people that we want to interact with and sell with want. I think that's a really good way to show empathy and show value without filling somebody's inbox. So I'm really glad that you came to talk about this with us today and lay this out and let me throw all these silly analogies at you. And now that I have, Lindsay, now that I've successfully picked your brain and seen what I could get out of it, it is time for you to tell us about what you are putting in it. So tell us about a learning resource that you've engaged with here recently that is either, informing your approach, or that's just got you excited these days.
Yeah, I think I learn a lot from people out there online. And I think LinkedIn is by far my favorite place to connect with other people who think the way I do. And, there are the usual suspects like Dave G at Drift.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, Kate Adams, who I think is really great. I just listened to her podcast on how she reimagined her funnel last night and totally loved it. There's also this guy, Chris Walker, who I like.
Yes.
I think he's inside my head sometimes. Like he literally, his viewpoints on MQLs and what we're really trying to do here and the opportunity for brand marketing. I love his content. Brian Carroll, like I said, on empathetic marketing. I met him at a conference years ago and just totally fell in love with his whole approach. He's got some great stuff. And then I've read this really cool book lately called Range, and it's about, being a generalist in a specialized world. And there's so much chat on that. And what's better is if you think about yourself as a marketer, is it better to go deep and specialize or, be good at a lot of things? And I thought that book was really interesting. And I consider myself to be a marketer with range, which is why I am where I am today. So I would say those are the things that I've been consuming lately.
I love it. Thank you for sharing all of that. There's a lot of overlap. You and I talked about a mutual, not quite obsession, but appreciation for what Gerhardt is saying or doing at any time. And I recently just discovered Chris Walker as well. I'm like, where did this guy come from?
I love him.
Yeah.
Like everything he says, I'm like, woo, like fist bumping in my office.
Like, I feel like you read my diary and I'm mad at you.
Yeah, totally. Yes.
So thank you for sharing that with us. And now I know, Lindsay, that just like me, everybody listening has become a fast fan of yours and they're going to want to know how they can keep up with you. So tell us, how can folks connect with you?
Yeah, well, I would say LinkedIn is the best way. Lindsay Cournoyer on LinkedIn. It's French. You might not know how to spell it, but it's Cournoyer. I bet I'm the only one on there, so you should be able to find me.
Yeah, if you find another Lindsay Cournoyer,
yeah, tell her what's up. Yeah,
tell her we said what's up, girl.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But this was so much fun. I could ask you so many more questions just about life and marketing and the intersection of the two. So the only solution that we're just going to have you on again. But for now, I'm going to close it out and tell you thank you so much for coming to being on the show and sharing your unique experience and insight with our listeners. It's really been a pleasure. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Nikki.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.